Welcome back students. Today we will continue the remaining topics of chapter 7. So let's start. Determination of foreign exchange rate. Fixed exchange rate is an exchange rate between the currency of two or more countries which is declared by the monetary authority, that is RBI. It remains fixed and adjusted only infrequently. Two major exchange rate systems are fixed exchange rate and flexible exchange rate. So the first one is the fixed exchange rates. There are two systems of fixed exchange rate and they are gold standard and the Bretton Woods standard. Gold standard. Under this system, exchange rate is officially declared and it is fixed. Only a very small changes from its fixed value is possible. A typical fixed exchange rate system was associated with the gold standard system of 1880 to 1914. Under the gold standard system, each currency value was defined in terms of gold and hence the exchange rate was fixed according to the gold value of currency that have to be exchanged. So the next one is Bretton Woods standard. According to Bretton Woods standard, gold was replaced by US dollar. Under this system, all currency were pegged or linked to US dollar at a fixed exchange rate. The Bretton Woods system of fixed exchange rate, which was in operation from 1944 till 1971, was one of relative fixed exchange rate as opposed to rigid fixed exchange rate. Next, merits of fixed exchange rate. So first is promotes international trade. Fixed exchange rate ensure certainty about the foreign payment and hence help to promote international trade. Point number 2 is promotes international investment. Fixed exchange rate promote international investment. They encourage long-term capital flows. Point number 3 is no fear of speculation. Under fixed exchange rate, there is no fear of speculation on the exchange rate. Next, demerits of fixed exchange rate system. Point number 1 is large reserves of foreign currency. Under the system of fixed exchange rate, large reserves of foreign currency are required to be maintained. Point number 2 is pegged rates are not permanently fixed. Fixed exchange rates are not permanently fixed. Countries with deficit in balance of payment may be forced to evaluate their currency. Point number 3 is sacrifice of the objectives of full employment and stable price. Under the system of fixed exchange rate, the objectives of full or high level of employment and price stability at home are sacrificed at a cost of external. Next, flexible exchange rates. The system of exchange rate in which value of a currency is allowed to float freely as determined by demand for and supply of foreign exchange is called flexible exchange rate system. The foreign exchange market is busy at all times by changes in the exchange rates. Next, demand for foreign exchange. The demand for foreign exchange in the foreign exchange market comes from the following: importers sending remittance abroad, purchase of financial assets abroad, speculators, and for making payments of foreign debit. So point number 1 is importers. Importers of a country purchase foreign goods and service. They would then need to pay in foreign currency. Point number 2 is sending remittance abroad. Foreign exchange is also demanded for sending remittance abroad. Point number 3 is purchase of financial assets abroad. Foreign exchange is also demanded by those who wish to purchase financial assets abroad. Point number D is speculators. Speculators are the person who buys and sells foreign currency with the intention of making profits. Point number 5 is for making payments of foreign debits. Moving down the vertical scale, the dollar in worth fewer rupees and hence in depreciation in a foreign exchange market. The moving up the scale, the dollar in appreciating, the demand curve for dollar is negatively sloped. This implies inverse relationship between price of dollar in rupees and its quantity demanded. Next, merits of flexible exchange rate. Point number 1 is no need for foreign exchange reserves. There is no need for the government to hold foreign exchange reserves. Point number 2 is simple in operation. A system of flexible exchange is simple in its operation. Point number 3 is autonomy of the domestic monetary policy. Under flexible exchange rate system, a country is free to adopt independent monetary policy. Point number 4 is exchange control not required. This system does not require the use of exchange control, which is generally associated with the use of pegged rates. Next, demerits of flexible exchange rates. Point number 1 is unstable conditions. Flexible exchange rate create conditions of instability and uncertainty in the economy. Wide fluctuation in exchange rate tends to reduce the volume of international trade and foreign investment. Point number 2 is inflationary biases. Another disadvantage of the flexible exchange rate is that they have an inflationary impact on the economy. Whenever there is deficit in balance of payment, the currency depreciates. The equilibrium exchange rate in such a situation may not be an appropriate. Next, managed floating. The word manage indicates towards fixed rate system and the word floating denotes flexible exchange rate system. Managed floating exchange rate is a mixture of flexible exchange rate and a fixed exchange rate. In other words, it refers to a system in which foreign exchange is determined by free market forces, that is demand and supply forces, which can be influenced by the intervention of the central bank in foreign exchange market. Under this system, also called dirty floating, central banks intervene to buy or sell foreign currency in an attempt to establish exchange rate movements in case of extreme appreciation or depreciation. Next, factor affecting exchange rate. The exchange rate between countries changes due to changes in demand and supply in the foreign exchange market. The factor which causes changes in demand and supply are as follows. Point number 1 is change in price. It is change in the relative price level that cause changes in the exchange rate. Point number 2 is change in exports and imports. The demand and supply of foreign exchange is also influenced by changes in exports and imports. Point number 3 is change in income. Change in income also affect the exchange rate when income increases. Consumers spend more on imported goods. So the demand curve for foreign exchange shifts to the right, indicating increase in demand for foreign exchange. Point number 4 is speculation. Exchange rate in a foreign exchange market also depend on speculative activities. Point number 5 is interest rates. Interest rates also affect the exchange rates. Wealthy person and multinational corporation and banks have huge amount of funds across the world. They remain in search of the highest interest rates. So students, with this topic, chapter 7 ends. Thank you.